All right, we are live. Welcome back, everyone. J-Bone here for Smash This Podcast. But it's not just the regular old Smash This Podcast talking all things wrestling. No, this is bringing back, J-Bone's finally bringing back the Jacked Up Jukebox. It has been a while. What is up, Styles? I had a feeling one of my brothers was going to show up in here. What is happening, man? All right, so we're going to talk some music. Once in a while, we'll talk a little wrestling-related music news, but there's nothing really today. We might catch up with some more next week. I'll look for a little something, see if I can mix in a little wrestling something, but this one is strictly going to be music. We're finally bringing this back, so let's kick this off right now. Oh, yeah, and we're back. Fresh intro. And that might be changing once in a while, too, depending on what I find for, like, music and whatnot. Try to keep it, hopping and interesting over here on the Jukebox. But we're going to talk a few different subjects. Try to keep this short but sweet today. This is the first one, and I've got a lot going on later tonight. I got dinner brewing and everything. So, what's on the docket for today? If you saw on the hashtags in the description, you get a clue of what's coming. Let's talk about some of these concerts that the Monsters of Rock Crew's social media has been putting out to trying to keep the music industry alive. Props to them, seriously, because this is a rough time for everyone and anyone trying to run any kind of business, restaurant, anything to work socially amongst the public has been virtually stopped right now. And especially the music industry. People can't go to concerts. People can't go to restaurants. People can't go to clubs, see local stuff. Everything's been put to a halt over the last few months, and it's been rough all around. And then all of a sudden this popped up recently. Like, okay, this is stuff I wanted to talk about a few months back and just didn't. And I'm kicking myself now, but we're here. Okay, so we're here. One of the first bands that they featured on here, I know I'm going to miss a few bands that they've had featured on here, but I'm going to talk about a couple. The first band featured was, from what I know of, is the Bullitt Boys. Now, the Bullitt Boys is all 4 members brought back from the 80s. And it's been almost 10 years since they played together, probably more than 10 years now. Bullitt Boys, one of my favorite bands. I popped for this. I was pretty excited. Now, of course, they were supposed to make a stop here earlier in the year, but that was with the old version of the band. And now, because it's 2020 and there's all these bands getting back together, it's ridiculous. You got Hurricane Alice. I had all the lists like just right on the tip of my tongue. Hurricane Alice is back. Pardon me. Well, what was one I just saw? Oh, Shotgun Messiah. Tim Scold and Harry Cody, I think his name is, the guitarist. They're making music again. I just saw that on Instagram. That news has been real quiet, but it's been rumbling, so I'm trying to keep track of it. It's hard because it's not like, something that's blasting out everywhere. So I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on that. So yeah, all these bands are getting back together. Cold Sweat just played the Monsters of Rock Cruise before all this stuff went to hell, and we're going to talk a little about that in a second. But man, Bullitt Boys played live on the Facebook concert. Then they had links where you could donate stuff to like a PayPal or a Venmo or whatever. And depending on who donated the most, they were giving away certain things like lists of the songs from the stage, whatever they call those, whatever. I'm old and I forget shit all the time, but you know what I'm talking about. Songs list from the band. So giving away some pretty cool swag, some t-shirts and stuff. But the Bullitt Boys are back, and I'm so excited for this, man. It's 2020 now, even though 2020 has been an absolute hell in a handbasket, like month by month. It's just we skipped the murder hornets and we went straight to something else, which we're not going to talk about everything that's going on in the world. We know what's going on in the world. It's crazy and it's a hot mess. But I'm here to try to talk some positivity and my love for music and rock and roll and everything that I love about music. And this is certainly one of them. So the Bullitt Boys are back. Stoked about that. They sounded absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Mark Torian still got it. I saw one comment while they were playing live, and someone said, "Boy, I really wish Mark was still playing guitar." It's like, dude, Mick Sweet is back playing guitar. What are you complaining about? Lonnie on bass sounds great. Jimmy on drums. Oh man. And apparently they're working on new music too. Now I'm not sure to what degree. If they're all hunkered down someplace working on something. I don't know if they're, using the internet, whatever, for communicating and whatnot. I can't wait, and I don't know if they're going to be still with Frontiers or if they're going to go through someone else. The last two came through Frontiers, and they were great releases. Now, granted, it was another band with, Mark singing, but they were great, and the creativity was there. So, we'll have to see. I can only assume it's gonna sound like the classic stuff, maybe with a little more, modern sonic vibe to it. It always had some kind of sonic vibe to it, right? Good old Bullitt Boys. I called the Bullitt. I used to call them like it was like hippie hair metal, Good stuff. All right, so they're back. I'm ecstatic. Next, we're going to talk about a band that came out of nowhere. Literally out of nowhere, had no clue this band even existed. Now, this is on drums is Ian Kuraby, which is a junior to the Kuraby who was in Motley Crue, I believe. So it kind of blows your mind there when you think it's like, oh man, there's a next generation Kuraby. That's pretty cool. Juran's on bass and Sebastian Labar's on guitar. Now, those two guys, as far as I know, those two guys are in the band Tantric. If you know the band Tantric, so like half the band Tantric is in this band. Singing, though, oh my goodness. Stop the presses. Seriously. Roy, formerly of Cold Sweat, or he's still, Cold Sweat, like I said, just played the Monsters of Rock Cruise, and I think they're putting something together. Don't quote me on that, but I'm hoping they do. Because let me tell you something. Roy sounds like $1 million. Absolutely. Just blew me away. You can go listen if you're a fan of the old band from 30 years ago, Cold Sweat, that they toured with Dio and did some other touring before they unfortunately broke up and was at MCA didn't want them no more, whatever it was. They basically lost their record contract the day their first video came out. That's how crazy the music industry was back then, and that's almost exactly 30 years ago. It was 1990. But I saw him on the tour with Dio, and who else was on there? Yngwie Malmsteen. Great stuff. But Roy still sings phenomenal. He can hit all the notes. He can sing all the shit. But now he wasn't singing Cold. Well, he sung one Cold Sweat on this thing. I'm going to go down the list here. This is all the stuff that they sung here. This is crazy. Quite the variety. They opened up with Lay It Down from Rat. Boom, right off the bat. One of my favorites. They had a song from Badlands, High Wire, Cinderella's Save Me, Led Zeppelin's Communication Breakdown, Motley Crue's Smoke the Sky, which featured Kuraby back in the day, back from 1994. Quite the deep cut there. White Snake's Is This Love? Van Halen Ain't Talking About Love. Lynch Mob's Wicked Sensation. Now, Cold Sweat, Crying Shame. Sounded absolutely amazing. Loved it. Billy Idol's Rebel Yell, and then ended it with a Stand Up and Shout from Dio. Man, I'm telling you, they got to put the Cold Sweat Boys back together and make some music, because that first release is still something special to this day. I'm probably on an island with just a few people that remember that one back from 30 years ago. But let me tell you, if you look that up, man, it still sounds like $1 million this day. It's one of my favorites. This one that still gives me goosebumps, and Roy still sounds just as good. And let me tell you something, that is saying a lot, because there's a lot of bands from back then that still try to do their stuff, and it just ain't the same. Now, I'm not going to say a lot of names, but I'm just going to say Roy is on a very short list of people that still sound like $1 million. Millie from Steel Heart still sounds like $1 million. Phil Lewis from LA Guns, the real LA Guns, in my opinion. Still sounds like $1 million. And there's a few others that still can hit those notes and still can, put on 110% performance when you go see them live. You don't have to, get plastered and see them and be like, all right, well, I don't remember what they sounded like. Probably crappy, but that's okay, because I was drunk. It's not one of those, It's like I said, not naming names, not gonna insult anybody, because everybody's still trying to just make a buck out there. But let me tell you, Roy sounds great. These guys sounded great. This was Seeds of Low-Hanging Fruit, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, that's I don't know where you go with that one. That's just one crazy ass title for a band, let me tell you. But more of a cover band, just a jam band. But man, these guys sounded great. So we'll see what happens with Roy in the future with wherever he's going. I know he's got a couple other projects out there that he's had over the years, but nonetheless, he sounds like $1 million. All right. One last thing on the Monsters of Rock Facebook concerts coming up in a few days. I believe on the 6th, there's a double header. Anthony from Tora Tora and Phil Lewis from LA Guns are doing a back-to-back show. So go check them out if you dig the classic Tora Tora stuff or the LA Guns. You got to assume they're going to be singing stuff from their bands, but these are some unique concerts. I've seen a few others on that Facebook page, and you never know who's going to show up. These all are kind of like just coming out of nowhere. Some of these are jam bands and just a bunch of people getting together and playing some great rock and roll. And some of these are, bands from the past coming out of nowhere. Like I think they just advertised Junkyard. I haven't seen Junkyard with the exception of, MTV back 30 plus years ago. So, crazy, just crazy. So yeah, go check out the Monsters of Rock Crew's Facebook page. They're putting on these concerts. You want to support some great rock and roll, go check out their listing and watch some stuff. It's the only option we got right now. It's sad, but it's true. So there you go. All right. Next subject of business here. Let me get rid of my tabs here. Speaking of classic stuff, DOKKEN is back. Well, sort of. They are releasing in August 8th of this year, so just a few months away, middle summer, whatever, the Lost Songs, 1978 to 1981. Now, this is all stuff that Don worked on when he was, an up-and-coming, strapping young lad back in his 20s, and he was touring Europe, and he was trying to cut it in the music business. And touring with guys like Juan Crucier. They released a video, and you can go check it out. Go look it up. It's on Dokken's page. The song's called "Step Into the Light." It features the song. It sounds like it's remastered stuff, but it's got all clips of old pictures of him back from 40-ish years ago, late 70s, early 80s, rocking and rolling with his first, I guess you could say, the inception of his first band, what then became Dokken. But yeah, I like this song. It sounds like Dokken, it's got that classic sound to it. They really never strayed too much, except for like the mid 90s when they started getting kind of grungy, and I think it fell off for a while there, or quite a while. But so we got a track listing here that's coming out in August. It's "Step Into the Light," "We're Going Wrong," "Day After Day," "Rainbows," "Felony," "No Answer," "Back in the Streets," "Hit and Run," "Broken Heart," "Liar," and "Prisoner." And you can look up stuff from back then and see who's all involved in what. This is courtesy of sleazeRocks.com. I'm not going to read the full article here, but that's some of the information there in a nutshell. You can pre-order it. And I've always liked Dokken. It's one of the handful of bands I grew up with that were always my favorites, along with the Crue and Rat and those guys, Bon Jovi. Dokken was always up there, man, and they came and went, and they're still going. But this is certainly some classic stuff. I mean, it's about as classic as it gets here. So go check that out. Like I said, along with that new video, "Step Into the Light." Let me know what you think of it. Put it in the comments below. Connect with me on here, and hit me up on social medias, on all the Smash This Podcast platforms. I'll be trying to do this once a week. So, and I realize this is probably going to hit a very small audience at first, but I'm hoping it's going to grow, because I'm going to do this consistently. I'm bound and determined to get this going again. Might even put it on the audio format. We'll see. I'm going to try to just get this growing in as many places as possible, and maybe other video formats as well. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Next, got a couple subjects left here. The stadium tour from Motley Crue is canceled for 2020, and it's happening next year. It's, postponed. You can call it whatever you want, but it is not happening this year. And I know a lot of people are complaining that it took till almost June, just weeks away from the first date, for them to come out with this. My thinking in that aspect is, when you've got a stadium tour this big with all these working parts and gears and clogs and, or cogs or whatever, cogs in the machine and wheels, whatever, all these different parts. It's not just the bands going out and, hey, we're just going from city to city. No, there's sponsors and all these things behind the scene that have to fall into place for a tour this big. I mean, the whole tour sold out in what, just days, not even? Shoot, the Milwaukee date at Miller Park sold out in a half hour. 30-some, 40-some thousand seats gone. Boom. Crazy. Unbelievable. Nothing's sold out like that since God knows when, since the Beatles or whatever. But so this is the post that all of the bands put up on their social medias. It says the stadium tour. It says we wanted to continue to communicate with our fans and update you with valid information as it becomes available. The official decision has been made to move all 2020 North American Stadium Tour dates into the summer of 2021. Very smart on their parts, I think. The new stadium dates are being rescheduled. Your tickets will be honored for all postponed shows, and refund policy information will be made available shortly. Stay tuned. Be safe. We will see you next year. Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Now, I think there was an opening band too, but I can't think of who they were off the top of my head. My apologies. But I was curious to see who that was. I did see a video or something from him recently, but nonetheless, the tour is canceled for now. It's happening next year, postponed until 2021, and hopefully we get ahead of all this COVID stuff. I haven't been paying much attention to it lately. I'm still kind of hunkered down here, but we're not getting ahead of this. Some places might be doing better than others, but the bigger metropolitan areas like the Midwest, the West Coast, the East Coast, we're not getting ahead of this, folks. We're not. So who knows when things are really going to get back to normal. All we can do is hope and pray that things do. So there you go. No touring for these boys. No big comeback for the Crue this summer, unfortunately. So stay tuned to their social medias, and I'll be staying on top of it right here on the Jacked Up Jukebox. Next, real quick note, that metal show. Remember that one, folks? Hosted by none other than Eddie Trunk, Jim Florentine, and Don Jamieson on VH1 Classic, I believe it was. Man, Eddie Trunk just a few nights ago got the boys back together in his backyard on his back porch, whatever. Had a little fire going, had some brews going, and they had a little impromptu reunion of that metal show. Who'd have thunk? There was over 1,000 people watching at one point. I tell you what, you put it on the right format and it could really get things going again. And I'll tell you what, there's no reason why I can't. With everything that the music industry has done while everything has been on hold because of all this COVID shit, there's no reason why they can't, put themselves in a well-lit area, get them some mics, some decent cameras, and do this on like a weekly basis from like, a secret place, or, a small warehouse setting with some decent lighting. There's no reason why they can't do this. And just talk about news. Maybe not have guests on, but they could just do exactly what I'm doing right here. If you guys want help with this, call me. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so you never know what these guys are thinking, what Eddie Trunk's thinking. He's still got his radio show. The other guys have their own podcasts through their formats that they do in the world of music and rock and roll and whatever. I gotta check that out sometime, see what Jim Florentine and Don Jamieson are doing. I'm curious. So yeah, who knows, man? We haven't had that metal show in a long time, but I tell you what, I can't wait if and when it ever comes back and they just need a little gasoline on a small flare to get that thing just raging again. So we'll see. I'm gonna, cross my fingers and pray to the metal gods above. We'll get some more of that metal show, in any format. I don't care how it is. It's just great seeing these guys again. They got a nice chemistry. They're goofy as hell. Great sense of humor, and man, just a lot of fun. So there you go. So yeah, go check out, if you guys want to see it, it's over on Eddie Trunk's Facebook page. His son was running the camera. You can hear him whispering in the background once in a while. It's kind of funny. So all right, last but certainly not least, we're going to end it on a bit of a somber note. We lost Bob Kulick a few days ago, brother of Bruce Kulick. And man, doing a little bit of research on this guy, man, this guy did more stuff than you might know he did. Just to list off just a handful of the things here. I'm not going to run down his whole catalog of stuff he's done, since the 60s, 70s, whatever. He's been in the industry for a long time. He was 70 years old, folks. He had a long life, but still sad, He was like the fifth member of Kiss, for those of you who don't know. And I wasn't sure. I heard he was involved here and there. It said, now this is courtesy of Sleaze Rocks again. It says he auditioned for Kiss in 1972 and ended up playing uncredited on the 3 of the 5 studio tracks on Kiss live album Alive 2 in 1977. He was on Killers from 82, and then he also played on Paul Stanley's solo album. Now that's very interesting. So he was playing what I'm guessing is Ace Frehley's parts for some of that stuff. Kind of blows your mind. Great guitarist. He also, now I was not aware of this, and I went back and I listened to these the other night when I was just winding down. He played on a few of the Wasp releases in the early to mid 90s. He was the lead guitarist on the Crimson Idol and Still Not Black Enough. Now, I still love Wasp. I love all their stuff. I haven't maybe listened to all their stuff because Blackie's put out quite a few releases over the years. Now, these two in particular were supposed to be Blackie Lawless solo albums, from what I've read in different sources. But because of pressure, I'm guessing from, record label or whatever, or other people, he decided to call it Wasp. But man, these are so good. So good. I listened to them back the other night. The Crimson Idol is a bit of a rock opera in a sense, and Still Not Black Enough is kind of a continuation off of there. Now, what's interesting is there's some political overtones in there, and he's always put in, I shouldn't say always, but he's put in some political overtones. And what's interesting is some of the stuff I was listening to the other night from Still Not Black Enough is eerily reminiscent of what's going on today. Give those two a listen again, because damn, they are good. Bob Kulick also had his own band that I gave a listen to for the first time called Skull. And that was from 90. It's not on here. I believe it was from 91. And man, that whole thing, front to back, I actually sat down and listened to. I don't do a whole lot of just sit down and listen to an entire release. I used to do that a lot more back in the day. But it was actually refreshing to do that. Like I just kicked back, put it on in the background, and did some searching on social media for other news and stuff going on. But I listened to every song top to bottom, and that release, Skull, was great. I'm going to be checking out a lot more of his stuff throughout the years when I get some time. I know he just had a recent release a couple years ago. I'm going to check that out as well. But rest in peace, Bob Kulick. He had so much amazing content over the years. And one thing that I found you put this in the wrestling references here. He played guitar on Triple H's The Game song, the infamous "It's Time to Play the Game." Now, I know that Lemmy is tied to it with Motorhead stuff, but I did not know that Bob Kulick actually played the guitar on it. Very interesting. I heard he also did a classic anthem from SpongeBob SquarePants. Sweet Victory with Isley. Yeah, from the episode Band Geeks on Nickelodeon. Unbelievable. So if you've ever seen that from SpongeBob SquarePants, the song Sweet Victory, Bob Kulick played on that. So a little a warm comedic thing to think of that as we get out of here. So that's going to wrap up the first episode of Smash This Podcast music contribution to society called the Jacked Up Jukebox right here. And I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. I've got a few things on the back burner that I wanted to talk about this time, but I couldn't put everything that I've been trying to catch on this one. Otherwise, we'd be sitting here all night, and I can't afford to do that. So, but there's a few things. We're going to talk about the revolving world of LA guns and the multiple LA guns and a few other subjects on here. I'll give my opinions on that. And along with some other new stuff that just came out, I'm going to give a listen to and give a review to the latest Hurricane Alice that just came out the other day. Man, it's been 30 years since Hurricane Alice, and they're back, folks. I'm so stoked. So, excuse me. So keep an eye out for that. It's hard to put a normal schedule on this this beast of Smash This Podcast, but I'm putting out stuff when I can. I'll be back later tonight for some wrestling stuff. But there you go. Episode 1, the Jacked Up Jukebox is back, folks, in your face. So as we wrap this up, we'll see you down the road, folks. Much love. Don't forget to smash that like button, smash that sub button, and ring that bell for notifications so let you know when more of my content hits your screen. We're out of here.